Guys, welcome to the Homestead. So it's getting close to spring. The temperatures are warming up. I'm looking very forward to getting into the garden. I'll be bringing you with me on that soon. I got some things to share. I'm going to get some plants started soon. So I hope you're getting your garden ready. Now's the time. If you haven't done it yet this winter, is to get fresh lasagna layering soils on your garden so that you can have a very fertile and growing soil for spring and summer. So do that now. Now's the time. I want to go over a few things. I did a video the other day on the inflation and the $5,000 checks, and it's apparent to me that many of you, don't know how inflation works. And that aside, some of you did, but you do definitely know how inflation works. But there's a lot of people who were like, Zach, man, I could really use that $5,000. And I'm with you. I could use $5,000 too. I mean, if someone's going to give me $5,000, I'm not going to turn it down. However, if the government comes out and gives every tax-paying household $5,000, you're absolutely going to increase inflation. There is no doubt about it. Now, let me just show you a common comment that I got when it came to this video. This was repeated many times by many of you in the comment section of that video, and it goes something like this. He says, any inflation that check would have caused has already happened. It's already been budgeted to the departments. It's a refund.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
This is completely wrong. Guys, you don't understand. All of that money that they're talking about that's been given to the departments only exists in computers within the government structure. Once you write checks and you give that to the public, it is now in the public domain. Many people are going to take those checks, go to the bank, and they're going to demand cash. They want $5,000 cash. And the banks are going to be like, oh, well, we only have so much cash, so we're going to have to make a call to the Federal Reserve in order to get more money, and that money will be shipped in. Where do you think the Federal Reserve is going to get that cash that has never existed before? Because all that money only exists as digital ones and zeros as of right now. It only exists as digital ones and zeros in computers right now. Now, when you put that money into the public, it now increases what's called the velocity of money, because it's now in the public domain. Whether it's physical or it's still digital, it's now in the public domain, and it's being passed around all through Main Street, USA, being passed around. That's called the velocity of money, and that will always, 100% of the time, increase inflation. 100%. So if you think, oh, well, it's already existing, it's already in the budget, it's already out there. No, it's not. It's in the government structure. It's only existing by use of the government inside of those parameters as digital ones and zeros in computers. Once you release it, it now changes into the velocity of money into the public domain, and it will increase inflation. So I would love a $5,000 check. I'm sure you would too. I'm sure you have plenty of things to spend it on. However, this will increase inflation, and that was my point in that video. If you do get this check, if they decide to go ahead and go through with this, okay, fine. We get the $5,000 checks. If you're a tax-paying household, spend it on something that's going to be used for production later on, because the way you survive inflation all throughout history is to be a producer. Produce something, and you're going to fare. Well, it's just two sides of the same coin. Many of you left that comment on my video. You have deflation and inflation. Inflation is by far worse. When you look back throughout history, it says, I think for the deflationary 1930s, the United States, only about 30% of the country was really hurting. 30% is what they said. Now, I don't know if that's true. I mean, everyone felt it, but you hear that commonly, that common phrase that my parents or my grandparents, they were so poor, they didn't even know there was a depression going on. A deflationary depression will not affect everyone. It's painful, but it will not affect everyone. Inflationary depression will affect everyone. Nobody gets off that boat. Everyone gets that ticket punched. Inflationary is far more painful. And so if you can be a producer, you can take that money and put it into something that's going to produce for you. When that inflation hits, you're going to fare far better than people who have never produced anything in their lives. These people who've gotten their college degrees in underwater basket weaving are in serious, deep doo-doo. All right, let's move on to the next comment. So I left a comment over at Eric Berg's channel, and he did a video talking about the egg prices. Very fascinating, very good. Here's a clip.
A PCR test, which has a lot of false positives. They have one positive, they will kill the entire flock.
Yep.
Some of these farms have millions of chickens, correct?
Correct. So they can kill hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of birds at once because of one or two positive PCR tests. That's why, this is important for listeners to know, that's why we have a shortage. The shortage is not because the birds are dying of the bird flu. And of course, just to show you how dishonest the whole process is, they call it culling. Well, you can look up the definition of culling in the dictionary. It has nothing to do with mass slaughter. Mass slaughter is the opposite of culling. That's how dishonest this process is. And according to the sources I've heard from, we've spent our taxpayer dollars over $1.25 billion to fund this mass slaughter of these animals.
And I basically left a comment saying, hey, listen, if you have not started growing your own food or raising your own animals, do so. And if you can't do that, get to a farm who does and support that farmer and start resisting the USDA and some of their policies. And it got a lot of likes, got a lot of hits, and a lot of comments and replies. One of the replies was this one: if they can, if you don't live in a rural area, you can't have animals. If you're rich and have a farm, you're blessed. Who in an apartment can grow their own food and have chickens and cows? Well, you must be new here. So let me remind some of you of my story. Before we left St. Louis to move to a more rural area in the Ozarks, I lived in a rental house. And before that, I lived in an apartment with my wife and my child. One child at the time. Okay. And we had two children right before we left. And we were living in a rental house. We made deals with farmers in order to get that stuff that I can't say here on YouTube. Warclim, spelled backwards. It's a phrase, spelled backwards. Warclim. So we made deals with farmers to go get that stuff. And we belonged to a co-op where everyone took their turns to go get milk for the co-op and then bring it back. You had to have a minivan or a truck or something like that. And so we did that. We made those connections while living in an apartment. You can do the same thing. You can make the connections with local farmers markets to buy local produce from them. They had all kinds like CSAs and other things that you can participate in order to get farm fresh, wholesome, good produce. There's different stores out there where you can go and they buy local when it comes to produce and meats and things like that. You can do that. And what I would even recommend is going to those farmers, personally, and making deals with them, especially when it comes to beef, to buying your beef and buying whatever meat you want, to make those deals and buy in bulk. You're going to save so much money. Yes, it's a bigger upfront cost, but you're going to save so much money by buying in bulk, buying a half a cow or a quarter cow or even a full cow if you can afford it. Up front, you're going to save a lot more money in the long run. And if you haven't noticed, beef prices aren't coming down. Produce prices aren't coming down. Even in an apartment, even in the city, you can make these connections and network to make sure you get good food. Yes, a lot of that food at the store is cheap, but it's garbage. So if you want real food, you're going to pay more for it. That was another thing that I saw a lot of comments about. Oh, I can't afford this stuff too. Farmers rip you off. Farmers charge what actual food is worth. The stuff at the store ain't food. And the produce at the store ain't food because it's been sprayed with a whole bunch of chemicals, a lot of it. So even then you got to be really careful. So yes, real food is valuable. You're going to pay more and you can do that even when you're living in the city in an apartment. All right, next comment. This was posted over on X, and this is something we've run into before in the past, and I thought it'd be a great comment to address. It says, some advice would be appreciated. Our rooster got into our laying boxes this morning. He went after the eggs, pecking holes in them and trying to eat some. 18 eggs destroyed. He's separated now. But what would have caused this behavior? Why destroy so many eggs? So those of you homesteaders out there who've encountered this, or you should know, there's only one answer to this, or really one solution to this. The reason your hens can do this too, not just roosters, but the reason a chicken will do this is because they have discovered that if you peck that egg, you can eat that. That's food, because chickens will eat anything. You can throw an entire dead body to a chicken coop and it'll be gone within a certain amount of time. Well, it won't happen as fast as pigs will do it, but chickens will do it. They will devour everything except for maybe the bones, and even then they'll get to it eventually. So chickens will eat anything. They'll even eat their own eggs. So at some point, that chicken who's now exhibiting this behavior somehow accidentally or intentionally cracked that eggshell and discovered that it tastes good and that it's a food source and they will eat it. And once they get that taste, it's over. It's over. They are not going to be rehabilitated. They are now a cannibal, and there's no way you can fix that behavior. So that chicken, hen or rooster, has to be removed from the flock permanently. And that just means the pot, go put him in the kitchen and have him for dinner. And what's even, excuse me, I'm having a little bit of, what's even worse is this behavior can spread throughout your coop. So if you notice this behavior is taking place, you must address it immediately, and then pull that animal out of that coop before others look around. Because if one chicken sees another chicken eating something, they want to come over and they want to see what you're eating because they want some of that. No, that you can't get it all. They want some too. And so they will also learn very quickly that that is a food source. And now every time a hen lays an egg, it will peck its own eggs and then eat its own eggs. Ask me how I know this. We have dealt with this before. Tim, who is in charge of all of our birds here, he has told this story. When this happens, the only option is to remove all birds who are affected with this behavior and cull them out of the herd, of the flock. Because if you don't, you'll never get any eggs again. You'll never get eggs. So that's the solution. A few people who left comments on this post did come up with the right answer. But some people were like, well, we just need to, separate them, and, I don't know what causes that. Maybe, they're all kinds of weird, fluffy answers that probably result from watching too many Disney movies that animals can be talked to and reasoned with. They can't. So if they have that behavior, there's only one solution. Into the pot you go. What do you think? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and other things. I'm going to be doing a speaking event coming up at the Okie Homesteading Expo very shortly next month. It's almost March. And so that's going to be my first event for the year. I'm going to be doing a number of events. You can find all of these events over at AnAmericanHomestead.com. At the events tab, at the events page, click on that and see if there's an event near you. I'm going to be in Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, so at a number of different events. So check that out. And if you're interested in one, come out and see me. I'd love to meet you guys. And we're going to be talking about some great, fantastic homesteading topics. And there'll be a lot of other great speakers out at these places and events as well. So check it out. And there's a link to each one of these web pages for these events at that page where you can go and see all the other speakers and some of the topics that will be discussed. I hope you can join me out there and see me soon. All right, guys. Love you. See you next time in the homestead. Bye. One of the best perks about living off-grid is that I never pay an electric bill. I love being my own power company, but that means when things go wrong, I have to be the one on call. So I try and use reliable components for my power production. For the last couple of years, I've been promoting OUPES solar generators. I've been using them and abusing them, and as it turns out, they are pretty good products. They have power generators for all occasions, and they can be charged by permanent or portable solar panels as well as AC power. They offer true lithium iron phosphate batteries, and this is important. Recently, a family in my area had a different brand that uses the less stable nickel manganese cobalt or NMC type batteries. The unit caught fire in the middle of the night. It was a scary situation and it caused damage to the home, but thankfully nobody was hurt. The generator, as you can see, was a total loss. This drives home the point on why it's so important to employ solar generators like the OUPES brand that uses the much more safe and stable technology of lithium iron phosphate, otherwise called LiFePO4. They offer small generators for travel or for powering an entire home and everything in between. These are great backups to have in a medical emergency or to power a freezer full of your favorite meat products, or as I have shown in past videos, for even backup AC and DC power sources for ham radio communications. If the grid goes down, you're going to be thankful you have one of these units. You can find the link in the description of this video or click on the banner ad found on the front page of our website, AnAmericanHomestead.com. Right here, that banner ad right there on AnAmericanHomestead.com.
Hey guys, did you know you can become a patron of an American Homestead? They get access to private videos, and we send them gifts from the homestead that we make here on the homestead. And we also enter our patrons into special giveaways that are only available to them. And before you go, please check out these other great videos. Go ahead, click. I'll wait.